Awesome. Well, why don't you kick us off, man, if you don't mind? Give us a little bit of the brief intro, the background. You have such a cool story, and I know you guys are on such a cool path going forward. Why don't you give everybody a little background?
Yeah, so Tanner, thanks for that. So again, Jeff Chambers, CEO, founder of Lumen, and it's a pleasure to be here today. Appreciate it. Heard a lot about you guys over the years, and it's funny. I checked you out a little bit this morning. Went online, and a lot of people don't know this about me, but so Lumen. We're based in the Bay Area. I've been here for 25 years with my wife. I went to college in LA. But when I met my wife 30 years ago, I was about 4 years out of kind of cow country. So I grew up on a ranch in Northern California, like way up north.
Love it.
And my parents, they still have the ranch today, cattle, just and everything that comes with that. And she used to joke, she goes, Jeff, you could take the boy out of the country, that old saying, right? You can take the boy out of the country, but you can't take the country out of the boy. And I was thinking this morning, I'm like, she used to give me such a hard time about, you get like a bull, right? You eat out of a bull, round bull. I could never get bull, bull riding and bull. I can't differentiate between those. She still gives me a hard time about that. But, anyways, it's definitely looking forward to the conversation today with you. Um, give you a quick recap on Lumen. So Lumen, we started the company in late 2016. It was so late in 2016, we almost want to say 2017. We hired our first employees. I think one of the first things we did was hire people and promptly have a Christmas dinner. So that was kind of like the kickoff of the company. But company was founded on this belief that you could hire a lot of smart folks across the country, and they don't have to be based here in the Bay Area, but you could source a lot of smart folks. We've got employees in over 40 states, and we can build this kind of distributed workforce, this community of smart, talented people that can come in and use cutting edge technology to solve critical problems for financial institutions at a high level. That's really what we set out to do, and it's a little deeper than that. We really set out to start a company where good people that were smart wanted to work with other good people. They could come and work in a real positive environment that was kind of free of your typical kind of big corporate America doctrine, and really, freedom is the key thing. So we looked at Netflix, we looked at Pixar, we looked at what Apple had done. We studied a lot of these companies, and we architected Lumen to be this kind of this innovation powerhouse, this place where people could come work collaboratively and really, have that. You ever hear Simon Sinek? He talks about the circle of safety and what motivates people to innovate and take risks. So we had this vision of building a cloud native digital banking platform and all the things that come with it. So no downtime upgrades, and it's elastic, automatic elastic compute, and everything's containerized. And I'm an engineer, so I can talk about this stuff, until the cows come home, or what is it, horse come out, whatever that is. So, uh, that stuff doesn't mean anything. The vision doesn't mean anything. Finding problems to solve is not hard in the industry. Everybody go on LinkedIn, go to any trade show, go to any conference. People talk about the problems all day long, and they actually talk a lot about the solutions, but the execution is what's really hard. So what we did at Lumen is we figured out how do we proactively like architect the DNA of the company so that we can hire smart people, get them committed, get them going that extra mile for the customer, get them working cooperatively, and really build this kind of this innovation machine that can tackle these thorny issues for customers. And so I could, we don't have a lot of time today, but I could talk to you about all the problems that the industry had when we started in 2016. And, I'll give you kind of a high level anecdote. I had met a local credit union CEO for coffee in the morning. It was a couple weeks before I was going to go pitch to PSU at the time to invest in the company. And I laid out my plans, and she's like, Jeff, why would you ever do that? Nobody likes their digital banking vendor. Everybody hates you. You're not going to be respected, admired. Go find something that is better. And I said, look, we're going to change that, but we're going to change it not just with the tech and some business plan. We're going to change it by kind of redesigning how you bring people together and get those people to solve problems with technology for kind of in a B2B SaaS model. Now, we're standing on the shoulders of giants here. We didn't invent this stuff. We copied it. We looked at all the successful companies. We got a lot of good stuff out of Netflix. I mentioned Pixar earlier. There's a lot of great companies out there that have modeled how you get people to work well together, and then they'll solve these problems. And so that's the beauty of what we've done and where we are today. So we went out, we built retail commercial banking. We've got close to 7 million users signed up on contract. I think we're approaching 6 million in production. We're launching customers. We've launched like 3 customers in the last 2 weeks. We've been launching customers at a steady rate for 5 years. And with the right discipline and the right leadership principles, the right culture, the right kind of go-to-market strategy, we've gotten the company to a point where the customers are saying, what else can you build? What else can you do for us? We got a lot of
This,
problems,
this
right?
brings up a great point here. I mean, you guys, if I got this right, tell me if I'm screwing this up, but you had something like 20 customers invest $75 million into your company recently, right?
That's right. Yep.
Okay. These are, okay.
It's gotta
Tanner,
be
we
a
talk
first.
about followers and advocates and then fanatics. I'm going with fanatics.
Yeah.
Well, our net promoter score is 89, and that's not an exaggeration. Now, we are doing a new NPS survey as we speak, and it's expected to go down with time because the organization, any company, you get bigger, you get more complex. But we've never lost a customer. I would
Wow.
say, we've never had a missed launch date. We've never missed up a launch date. Our average employee turnover was 1% for the first 6 years. And now it's hovering around, we now break out voluntary and voluntary, but voluntary turnover is in the 3 to 4% annual. So what we did is we built a company that could deliver on promises, and it requires a very conservative, disciplined approach to what you sell, who you sell to, what do you commit to, and really getting buy-in from engineering and product and operations. And you got to get buy-in from all the folks inside the company for what we're committing to do for our customer. And when you take your time to do that, that customer is blown away. And it takes some time. They don't believe you initially. It takes some time to you come in and you say, no, no, we're gonna give you an upgrade every week, and we're pushing out, we're pushing out a dozen or more enhancements a week, and you're not gonna have any downtime, and your users aren't gonna, it's not gonna be disruptive to the users. We're not gonna move cheese around. We're gonna do it very subtle. Um, Customers have a hard time with that because they've been on older legacy platforms for 3 decades, and here Lumen shows up, and we're saying all this stuff, and it sounds great, but it's harder to accept. Now I think that we've hit more critical mass in the last couple of years, and it's kind of hard. We have 80 plus customers. We've got large and small customers, and we're consistently launching customers every other week, and we've been doing it for 5 years. So the critical mass is there now. And when we go to customers and ask for or present an opportunity to invest in a company, we didn't have to do any hard selling on that. And I would say that we continue to see interest from customers. So even those that did not participate in that secondary offering that we did earlier this year, we have customers looking for follow-on opportunities and to invest more. And then we also have new customers coming in that. So Dave, that's one thing that I would say it's a consequence. Customers wanting to invest is a consequence of building a company in the manner that we built the company.
Yeah, I was going to say, I've seen this a couple of times in life. Now, don't get me wrong. I've seen a hell of a lot of people think about it, talk about it, and almost do it. But to do this successfully, where you have that ability to go to your customers and say you want to invest in what we're doing here, and have an overwhelming response from that, or an oversubscribed, perspective on that,
Yeah.
uh, you're doing something right, guys. I mean, that just doesn't happen every day. I think that's a hell of a testament.
And Dave, I would just jump in there and say that if we let our employees invest, they would invest too. And if you go out the glass door, you look at the reviews, you look at our eNPS, we do Gallup surveys every 6 months. We're in a 96, we're getting 96 engagement scores, and we're in the top 1%. I believe it's the top 10th of the top 10%, or the top 10th of the top 1% of kind of B2B SaaS comparison companies. So it starts with the employees. It starts with the culture. It starts with how you lead. It starts with the behaviors that you value and model, and how you treat your people. And then, there's a whole kind of playbook on how we manage that. And it's, partly a participatory organization that has hyper transparency, and we're bottoms up. And this is not just buzzwords. We went and we digested Ray Dalio's philosophy. He's, big hedge fund guy, right? We digested his philosophy around hyper transparency. How do we make this work at Lumen? And it's super uncomfortable, and it gets more uncomfortable as you get bigger, but it's working. So then now you have people that are as empowered to and as motivated to go do great things as the leaders or the CEO of the company. I can't, look, I haven't coded for 20 plus years, right? I'm not going to solve any problem for a customer. I can't even think of like the solutions, but what we need is we need that force multiplier. We have to be able to go out there and be like today, Lumen's probably talking to half a dozen prospects, and probably we're going to have conversations with 20 or 30 customers today. Like it's just so much scale. It can't be on, it's not going to be the leaders, the management team. So you have to have that bottoms up kind of organizational structure. And there's a bunch of things I could talk about the way we facilitate it. Idea is,
I'm tracking with you 100%. I've
yeah,
got a couple of companies, and I tell people all the time that the rule with an iron fist, and we have policies. I said just a bad way. I mean, what you've got to do if you want to get the most out of, let me give an example. People think, well, if I gave somebody 20% commission in sales or 30% commission in sales, they're either motivated to make all they can or they're not. It's not a matter of what your commission plan is, because that doesn't translate to support and service and other things that people do in your company. And you have to have, to get the most productivity from everybody, they have to be highly motivated internally from themselves.
yeah,
So that means they have to believe and buy into what you're doing, right? And that,
100%.
if you can get that translated to your customer base, to where your customer base believes in you too. Okay, I don't care what company you're doing and what it is, from selling snow cones to financial information,
Mhm.
you're going to have a successful company because your customers believe in you.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. The fastest way to motivate and align a sales force is to pay them a fair wage, and have happy references. Like that works really well. And then that next level component is when that sales rep comes back to the organization and says, look, this customer is special. They're unique. They need this extra thing. And they want to launch on 2 days instead of one. And they want, and then you have the engineers and product folks saying, okay, we'll make it happen. What do we have to do? And I worked at prior companies where, and go pick up any management book. Peter Drucker's been talking about this. He's talked about this for decades. It's open warfare between sales and operations. At Lumen, we integrated everything, and what we did is we made it impossible for the sales team to get misaligned with the operators. And that's because that's where you end up with the problems, right? You end up, so in your go to market, you have to be very, very intentional, very disciplined about that approach. And sometimes it means we don't pursue certain opportunities. Sometimes it means we just have to be very disciplined, and our customers are grateful for that.
You bet. I want to ask you, man. So I was one of the earliest folks at Malazai. I love this space. I understand the challenges. I mean, I still have the scars, right? I love this space, and I think there's a lot to be done. I think today, as you talk to lots and lots of banks and credit unions, underserved is maybe the right word. Everybody's got their struggles and problems, right? And I think there's massive opportunity that's unmet. Clearly, you guys have tapped into some of the successful parts of what others are lacking. I know you're not going to throw any shade at the competition, but I figured I'd throw a couple of darts for you. You guys are tapping into something different, right? And there's very few right now that are doing that. And the masses of digital providers are clearly, wouldn't have a great net promoter score. How about we'll say it that way? Can you talk a little bit about what you see different in the space and kind of how you guys are reacting, and what that secret sauce looks like?
So Tanner, you're asking, what do I see different? Like, what is Lumen doing different than maybe the competition? Is that
Yes.
what you're
And
thinking?
also, what are the challenges or opportunities in the space as a whole?
So the challenges are infinite. There's infinite challenges. one of the biggest ones I think that our industry faces is cost. So cost per unit. If you look at just kind of a lot of our buyers are price sensitive. And when you look at just look at like we got started in the credit union space and we have a live bank now. We're moving more and more into banks. But when you look at credit unions, they spend, I think according to a 2018 number, they spent about 6 billion per year. And today they have 2 trillion in assets. And then you've got Chase. What do they have? About 3.5 trillion in assets. They spend 17 billion a year on tech. So credit unions are spending collectively, what, half per trillion in assets as Chase. So part of it is it's there's a there's it's a different industry. So technology, or it's a different kind of mindset. So technology favors scale. So when you're this giant Chase, JP Morgan Chase, you've got $17 billion to invest in technology. When you're a small community bank or small community credit union, you're serving a business, you're serving a small family, you've got branches, it's more human contact. You're not going to have 25 million a year to invest in your digital channel. So that is a constant problem that we face is the dollars that the smaller community financial institutions are able to spend are more constrained than their competitors. But then Lumen has to come in and we have to provide the customer with a product that can meet or exceed what Capital One or Chase or B of A offer. You just you can't say, hey, look, this thing's lower price, and so we're not going to have half the features, or we're not going to, you just can't do that. So all of our competitors face that same challenge. We have seen the price points over the past 15, 20 years have actually come down per user. So when you look at most digital banking vendors, what they make per users come down. Some of the legacy providers out there, that's why they really changed hands a lot because they struggle to get the unit economics and that engine, that profit engine going. So what that requires is you come to market with a very, very innovative competitive platform at a very competitive price. And then the way you grow the business is with great service. Now you can say you have the best tech, and having the best tech is an enabler of a great experience for the customer. But it's not necessarily, you're not going to come in and woo anybody with cloud native. You're not going to win a customer over because you're cloud native and the other guy's not. You're going to win them over because they're confident that you're going to be a good partner for them for 10, 15 plus years, and you're going to do it at a competitive price. So now I'm going to bring it kind of full circle for you. So where you can really prevail as a company like Lumen, what Lumen's doing a little bit different is we come to market, we get our foot in the door with a bunch of new stuff that nobody else is doing, cloud native, containerization, these new benefits, right? We've got really happy customers, fantastic app scores. We use iSky and all kinds of analytics to track how do we compare on a service level, on an app score level, on a NPS level. You got G2. And Lumen, we have consistently led in all of those publicly available KPIs across the board. So if you go pull iSky for Lumen and you pull it for somebody else, Lumen's going to very likely be significantly better.
So what do you hear from them? What's next? What is it they want you to build? What do you guys say, hey, this is where we're going to innovate? Or is
Yeah,
that
so yeah, a couple of years ago, lending, loan origination, and deposit account opening were really picking up momentum. So we started in-house, all very organic development of those capabilities. We've talked in the market a bit about what we're doing, and I would say the kind of what's different about Lumen with those is Lumen is probably going to be the only platform in the market that's one code base, completely unified technology. You open up a deposit account, you open up a new loan. It's integrated, seamlessly integrated into digital banking, into your mobile app, into the back office tools, into the call center. So that parity of integration and then not having to have all the separate infrastructure for the separate silos of tech, we've reduced a lot of complexity and just made it easier and cheaper for financial institutions to bring on new deposits and new loans. And then this is not, I will say it's not rocket science. What's rocket science is mastering the patience to do it the right way. That's the rocket science. Now, what we're doing, that was a couple of years ago. What we're doing now is looking to solve issues more around like customer, kind of the customer 360 and CRM. So one of the challenges we still have is if you're using Salesforce for CRM and campaign management, and we have a customer who's got they have 1,000 campaigns. Well, you have to integrate those with Lumen, and then you have to integrate them with your back office systems and your teller software and your call center software. And you have all these orphan campaigns, and the campaigns are contradictory. And so we're looking for ways to solve that again, that seamless integration of parity across the entire enterprise in a way that's more typical of a Workday or Salesforce. So we're taking a little bit of a different approach there. And we haven't formally announced anything in the market yet. We're just now kind of kicking up a little bit of dust here, to get this going, and we're talking to customers about it. There's another problem that we're looking to solve for customers, and that is just kind of moving money and payments. Payments is pretty disparate, and I might regret, just we may regret we're opening a can of worms here, but half of our customers struggle. So once you get past digital banking, account opening, lending, the next two critical problems that customers have is it's really CRM management across the enterprise. Cohesive, 100% parity, CRM across the enterprise. And then half the customers will say that. Half the customers will say, "Yeah, our payment stuff's a mess. Real-time payments, same day ACH, Zelle, like just the money's just the way it's all coming and going, and batch processing and GL updates. It's really, really disparate. So we're going to look to solve some extended problems for the customers that have close proximity to digital banking. We're not going to build a core processing system. We're not going to go out there and solve things that are working. We're going to solve close proximity issues that customers are asking us to solve.
Very well said. So, Dad, just so you know, man, all the time when I talk about digital and how to go out, that's what my roadmap would be. That was good. That was the correct answer.
Yeah.
As many times as I've heard people make that boo-boo, I think you nailed it on account opening and lending, and then especially into payments. Those are the cost or revenue centers for the institution
Yeah.
that are closest to digital banking, and the things that the digital banking providers have historically either missed or messed up. So 10 out of 10, 5 stars. That was awesome, Jeff. Thank you. That was like a crash course, man. Way to go.
Well, and I tell my employees all the time, and we have all hands, and I say, look, when the company runs well, when you guys, take care of the ball, like Steve, I'm a big, basketball fan. Steve Kerr says, look, we lost because we didn't take care of the ball today or tonight. When our employees are taking care of the ball, I don't get escalations. Lumen never pays SLA penalties. Like this is the most like smooth running business that I've ever worked with. It's insane. So what that does is that gives me and the management team space to talk to customers and our board and investors about like, kind of put our finger up and what could we do? Like you're not drowning in infrastructure problems and scale problems and revenue problems and financials and Lumen. We plan out what we want to do, and so there's a lot of careful, disciplined planning. And then I would say we work to execute with precision and competence. And again, easier said than done. But when you put the power of the company in the hands of smart employees, it does amazing things. It really does. So I could spend half an hour talking to you just about that part. So,
Hey man, that is awesome. I do want to give you a second though. Take the final minute here and give me your final thoughts. I know we've covered a lot today, and there's probably all kinds of things in your mind that we missed. So, final thoughts, man.
I say the industry is going to change a lot, probably more in the next 5 years than the last 20. I've been the first startup digital banking company I was with was in 2001, and then we sold that to ORCC in 2005, and then I took over and ran it as GM for another, I don't know, 8 years. So I ran it through 2013. And that was for 13 years. I started and ran Architect Digital Banking. Today, Fiserv owns it today. So it's Fiserv's one of their flagship digital banking, maybe their flagship digital banking platform. But in the 13 years I ran it, it was client server end tier architecture, .NET, SQL Server, all the different tiers, and nothing changed in 13 years. And then we started Lumin in 2016, and that was like a whole different world with cloud native. It was just completely different. We had to go to school and figure out like what is all this stuff? What is containerization? And like everything we learned in that 13 years, we abandoned. We had to literally throw it out the window. And it feels to me like we're kind of approaching another inflection point.
Yep.
And I need to, quite honestly, we're embracing a lot of like advancement in cloud core, or I mean cloud kind of the core technologies that drive cloud native banking. So we're embracing a lot of stuff, but I do worry a lot about this is I guess this is when you know that a company is getting to a certain point of maturity when the CEO starts using words like worry instead of possibilities. But I do worry that what's happening with AI and Gen AI has the potential to disrupt our customers in ways that we can't see yet and change consumer behaviors. And we're trying to figure out like how do we get ahead of that? We're doing some AI stuff and AI is that's a whole nother hour discussion. But
Yeah.
but I would say, what my final thoughts are the industry is going to change quite a bit in the next 5 to 10 years. And that's going to require a recalibration of the workforce for both for the companies like Lumen. We're going to have to recalibrate how our people think, what the tools they use, how much do we lean on AI. And I'd say that the financial institutions, they're going to have to recalibrate how they view the consumer and and
Bingo.
and how they serve the consumer. And so again, I'm trying to keep this short, but there's going to be a lot of opportunity and there's going to be a lot of disruption there. And I think Lumen, we feel pretty comfortable that we're on the right path, but staying close to the customer and staying close to the consumer are going to be key to kind of that durability.
I
It's
love it.
nice to see somebody that knows what the hell they're doing around here. It's pretty neat. Hats off to you, man. I tell you what, with stablecoin, with AI, with all the things that are out there right now, with the shift in fintech and everything, I mean, it's just a new era. I'm with you. I get this feeling that you're talking about. Hard
Worried and
to
excited.
articulate because there's so many
Yeah.
pieces of it. How does it all come together and move where it goes? All I'm telling people all the time is follow the money. Where you see where all the money is happening, that's probably a good, good area to go in. But it's tough to see right now where all of this shakes out because there's so much so fast.
Yep, the advancement with just AI in general it's a little sporadic. There's a lot of hype, but there's also a lot of steady progress. And what we see today is the worst it's ever going to be, right? It's going to get better and better and better. It's a little bit like the internet. I know we're out of time here, but I was an engineer in the 90s and I was working for a consulting firm. We were doing engineering for a kind of a brokerage, a national brokerage, retail brokerage bank. And I went to this, we had this kind of conference, and the CIO of this institution that no longer exists, she's talking about how the internet's not going to change anything. And somebody in the audience said, "Well, how's the internet going to change anything?" And at the time, I was on an engineering project where we were just automating the batch processing of the independent broker dealers. We're automating kind of getting those orders to off into the New York Stock Exchange and all the different trading systems, Putnam and DST. There's a bunch of old infrastructure, and so we had to just integrate all this batch. It was all batch processing. So I started my career in the 90s working in batch processing. It was like crazy. Transforming data and just getting data, FTPing data. Well, she was adamant that the internet was not going to change anything. And she was right in the world of like kind of investment banking, retail banking. It didn't really change. It didn't start to have a dramatic effect on consumers until the iPhone came out and people could do stuff on their phones. And that radically changed, I think, how consumers viewed how they bank. And so I look at AI the same way. AI, it's a slow start, but look at where the internet is today compared to where it was in 1995, 1996, right? And so you're going to have the disbelievers, you're going to have the people that overhype it. But the reality is our world, like the fintech banking world, is going to look radically different in 15 and 20 years from now. And it's going to be primarily defined, just like the last 2 decades were defined by the internet. The next 2 decades are going to be defined by AI in ways that we couldn't see. We couldn't see where we are today with, I didn't even think about remote deposit capture and Zelle. I mean, all the stuff you can do in digital banking. I was anti putting the app on the BlackBerry in the early 2000s. So I had a product team and they're like, we need to do the BlackBerry app. I'm like, BlackBerry? What the hell am I going to do my banking on a BlackBerry for? And then the iPhone came out and we're all scratching our heads like, what
Yeah.
does this, what does this mean? Right. And of course, it was all the sales guys at the company that got the iPhone first, right? And they're like, look, this is radically different. And so we could not have possibly anticipated in the mid 90s where the internet was going to take the industry. And I think we're in that same disposition today.
That was so perfect. I lived that. And it's a hard conversation to have with people that didn't, because you're either outdated or you're not innovative. And it's like, no, man, it's literally predicting the future. And there's 75 different ways it can go. You don't really know for sure. It's easy to look backwards and go, well, there it was. Yeah. But boy, when you're in a spot like we're in today, really hard to shoot forward with certainty.
Yep. So what we do at Lumen is we don't have those answers. We don't have the crystal ball. So what we can do is we can sustain conditions at the company where the employees have the freedom and confidence to experiment.
Perfect. All you're going to ask. Man, it's been great.
Like I said, scared and excited. It's an awesome time. We
Yeah.
sure enjoyed it,
Well,
Jeff.
it's life,
Really good stuff, man. Thank you so much for coming on.
All right. Appreciate the time, guys.
We
Thanks
root
a lot.
for you, man. See you guys.
Nice show. Thank you. Bye-bye.